Welcome to the Underdog NFL Best Ball Draft Stream. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I'm here with Chris Wecht. You can find him on Twitter at Chris Wecht FF. If you're on YouTube, you can see how to spell that right on Chris's screen here. And of course, this show is sponsored by Underdog, which is your one-stop shop for all of your best ball, pick'em, prop, and daily fantasy needs. I love Underdog. I'm sure if you haven't checked it out, you'll love Underdog as well. Check it out if you haven't already. If you use the link in the description of this video or promo code Stochastic12, you can get your first deposit matched on Underdog up to $100. And you'll also get free access to our Stochastic Best Ball package, which is a value of $40. So if you've already signed up for Underdog, you can sign up for our Best Ball package for $40. You're going to have access to Matt Kajeski's, the most important thing, Matt Kajeski's rankings for all the best ball sites, which you can download CSV from our site and upload directly onto the sites. Chris, thank you very much for coming on today. This is our third show together. I guess I've been a guest on your shows a couple times. Your first time coming over here on this channel. Are you ready to draft some best ball today?
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, our streams together started with XFL of all things, and now we're doing best ball drafts.
Doesn't I mean it only goes downhill once you've been doing XFL streams together. But we'll make the best of it when talking some NFL best ball. No, we did like 2 hours on like a XFL was like a 4-game slate, and we did about 2 hours I think. And then you and Jake ended up doing some streams, maybe with Justin Freeman for like the championship game. So it's just one game, and you went like an hour and a half or something ridiculous like that. You guys know how to.
Yeah, Jake can talk about XFL more than probably he could talk about NFL, which is crazy. But yeah,
I mean, you were right there hanging with him. I mean, I remember on our show you had dug into all the data, and I watched several of your streams that I was not on. There wasn't a ton of great XFL content out there, and you guys were thorough. Like you covered the bases very well. Doing the same with best ball. I already did one draft with you guys on your channel doing best ball. I'm excited to have you on our channel now. But one thing that I thought you might want to talk about, and one thing that might be changing your approach a little bit, is Fantasy Points. So Chris works for Fantasy Points, just came out with a new data suite tool. I get the impression based on Twitter that you've been digging in kind of a lot.
Yeah, basically it's the most powerful set of advanced data, football data that's ever been available to the public. Tools like this exist, but they pretty much are exclusive to NFL teams, and they cost tens of thousands of dollars. We put this out on the market for $50 total for the entire 2023 season. If there's a stat out there you want to know, remember that Bills Patriots terrible weather game from a few years ago where the Patriots threw like 2 passes total.
Yep.
You could now like if we knew a game was coming up like that, you could filter for games that have crazy snow, below 20 degrees outside. Make sure you're not in a dome, and you can see the stats for that now. There was just and then we get into all the advanced stuff. Some of the favorite metrics that I like for like our receiving stats, we've got stuff like first read target share, which tells us how many of the first read targets a player is getting. So that kind of gives us target share is like the base layer, and now first read target share tells us, okay, now how often is this guy being the first read on the play? So something like that might be more sticky week to week than target share. So a lot of this data is new. We go back to 2021 currently. We're going to work on back charting even farther back, and then obviously charting the new seasons as they happen. And then as we build up a sample size, we'll be able to tell more and more should we, when we're doing projections every week in season, should we be looking at more what number of first read targets a player is getting versus overall targets? Should we strip out design targets? Are they sticky week to week? That's like screens and jet passes, stuff like that. So yeah, it's just there's never been this level of data available to the public, and we're excited to not only have it for ourselves to play with and build our content and projections better, but also for the public to come up with cool things from it.
Yeah, I've looked at it just a little bit. It is a little bit overwhelming at a glance because there is so much information here. But obviously, if you are good with data and if you're good at kind of figuring out how to use this stuff, there's a ton of data, and as you said, as you alluded to, a lot of ways to use this kind of tool. So very cool to see that. I pulled it up on the screen if you're curious what it looks like. This is the first read number, first read percentage here. A lot of really interesting data to dig into here. You don't have like a promo code for yourself or anything like that, do you?
No promo codes this year, just because we're doing the $50 flat rate for the 2023 season. It'll after this season it'll typically be $200 a season. So yeah, you're never going to get a better price than this year. And there's a 7 free trial, I believe, right now.
Sounds right.
Any time you can go in, check it out. If you think it's all too much for you, whatever, it's not going to cost you a thing. And we're planning, there's going to be much more added, a lot more like in-season focused tools as well, like upcoming O-line, D-line matchups, upcoming QB versus coverages matchups, a lot of stuff that'll help, with your DFS play and whatnot, that you'll be able to see, why we think a guy might be projected to be better in certain situations just because of more matchup-based things.
Very cool. JWH wanted to know, is this available for $50 in a package subscription at Fantasy Points, or is it $50 for the data access itself?
So it's $50 for the data suite as a whole. There is, if you want the access to our premium content and stuff like that, and other stuff that's on the main Fantasy Points site, that's a separate package. But everything in the data site is $50.
Okay. Cool. That answers JWH's question. All right. Well, we came on here not to sell the Fantasy Points. I like players who you like based on the data, or are there players off the top of your head that you like better after digging into the numbers a little bit?
There's definitely some late round guys that I previously wasn't really considering, and now I'm like, I'll mix them in at the end of drafts here and there. And then there's some higher up guys that now we'll see if I can go in deeper if we actually come across them. But like Chris Godwin's a guy that I was drafting early on, but after doing some digging, I'm really trying to cut back and get way more over on like Mike Evans than I am on like Chris Godwin, for example.
Where are you with your debate with Scott on Justin Ross? Have you been able to talk him into some of your late round flyers instead of Justin Ross, or is it still Justin Ross every time?
He would take Justin Ross every time if he could. I pretty much, I know that I will not need to draft any Justin Ross because I have enough exposure just from when we do drafts together on stream.
I have drafted him a couple times since doing the stream with you guys, since hearing Scott's take on it, and I've seen some positive buzz on Justin Ross since then as well. Scott is actually going to be on here tomorrow night, so maybe we'll see if he can convince me to take Justin Ross in our draft. Let's jump into a draft here, Chris. We're going to do a best Ball Mania 4 draft, 30 seconds per pick. And Chris, I've told all of the guests, so my approach to this is going to be, I am not going to ask you for any money, and I'm only going to pay you out if we win at least $10,000. Once we win 10,000 or more, then whichever guest was on, we will split the winnings. But unless we win 10,000, I don't want to have to keep track of who won $50 or whatever. Does that sound good?
Yep, I'm pretty sure that's the same approach we're basically taking with our streams when we have guests on.
Good. Same page. All right, this one filling up quickly. Not unexpected that it's filling up quickly.
So I think last time we talked, you didn't have a strong lean with any of what you're doing in the first round. If you're first 5 or 6 picks, is that still the case?
Yeah, that's still. I mean, it's for me, it's always Justin Jefferson #1. I am also a Vikings homer, so like that's probably part of the reason I never stray from J Jets #1. It's always Jamar Chase #2 for me. I have not gotten the second pick all that often, so I'm a little bit underweight, I believe, still to Jamar Chase. Third, it's between these 3, 4. It's always Tyreek Hill, Christian McCaffrey, or Cooper Kupp. I kind of mix and match. I think often just based on like who did I get in the last draft. Like if I took Tyreek Hill, my most recent draft, I want to go somewhere else. I don't know. I don't have a strong sense. And then after that, so it's kind of those are the tiers. It's JJ's #1, Chase #2, then kind of a tier of these 3 for me: Tyreek Hill, Chris McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp. And then after that, it's again like I'll mix and match everybody from Bijan, Kelsey, Diggs, Eckler. That's probably the next tier for me, and then it's probably another tier breakdown to this group of CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra.
That might be the highest I've seen Bijan ranked for somebody.
Yeah, so these are the stochastic rankings that I'm using. So these are Matt Kajeski's rankings. I would never take Bijan here just because I don't need to. Like I'm gonna
Right.
get enough Bijan taking him later in the draft. But yeah, Matt definitely very bullish on Bijan. Atlanta was, they were very efficient on the ground last year and they ran it a lot. So I kind of get it why he would be ranked this high. And he's obviously one of the most polarizing players out there, Bijan, because some people are like, oh, why is he going in the first round? Why is he going ahead of Jonathan Taylor and Saquon Barkley? And others are like, no, he's I think I don't remember who said it, but somebody said yesterday he is the likeliest of all running backs to be the 101 next year, which might be true. He might be the likeliest.
Yeah,
so
that's I've been rising and trying to get more of him. I wasn't never fading him, but I just think I want to be overweight on him because I forget who I saw it on Twitter, and it was maybe a week or two ago. They showed the numbers on like how rookie running backs that were drafted high, their floor is actually really high. Like the teams commit to them and give them volume. Think Barkley's rookie year, he was awesome. Zeke's rookie year, he was awesome. Like I don't like if you draft Bijan, you're barring injury, your worst case is probably a top 10 running back, if not top 5. So like, yeah, I don't like, there should be no concerns of taking Bijan in the first round.
Yeah, seems like a very reasonable, and he already went 5 overall. So Kemba apparently on the same page with the rankings of Bijan. So we won't have that choice. Lewis Johnson asks, is there a way to draft with you tonight? Sorry, Lewis. I don't know if you commented on this before I entered the draft. You would have had to enter like at the same time with us, essentially, while we were waiting for this draft to fill. You would have had to enter this draft when we did it. Freshka, best ball content from my favorite website and Shaman. Thank you, Freshka. Always appreciate it. What an amazing night. Yeah. Freshka, I didn't actually see who was in this draft. I didn't check to see if anybody is in this one with us that I recognize. I'm not seeing any badges up. Oh, here, fantasy by Frank, who had, not sure if I know him.
Hall. I think drafting BBMs right now is the sharp move with the Pomeranian, and there's the slow puppy that's up. I think a lot of people are not drafting these as much.
All right, what do you think here, Chris? So we got Amon-Ra, Devontae, Garrett Wilson, Nick Chubb.
So I love taking Adams, and then I'm either Amon-Ra or Garrett Wilson here. I like double tapping. This is the ideal 3 guys I like to get at the turn here.
So you're not trying to split up a wide receiver and a running back here. You're happy to just go three wide receivers. All right, so we're going to start with Devontae. I feel like I take so much Amon-Ra. That's my only hesitation is I get him at the turn every time.
Yeah,
so there's a part of me that wants to take Garrett Wilson just to break that up.
We can take a running back. I just always, when I take a running back here, I always then regret it when we get to like the fourth round, and I'm like, I wish I could take another running back.
I know. All right, let's go Garrett Wilson, because I have enough exposure to Amon-Ra, I think. All right, so we got our two wide receivers to start. I'm happy with that turn. It's nothing, abnormal about that turn. You usually have your choice between those 3 most of the time, but yeah, it's not a bad start either.
What are your thoughts on Adams not being drafted as high as some? I mean, he's finished as a top 3 wide receiver, like for what, 5 years running, something like that.
Yeah, it's so my only hesitation with Adams is I like to stack. So like I'm a little bit like, well, should I don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo is gonna be healthy for the season. So like, but it's not a great reason to not draft somebody. Like you don't need to stack. You're not going to stack every player that you take. So yeah, I think that he's going honestly probably about where I would have him. Like I'm very happy to take him at the turn. Like he's clearly one of the best receivers in the NFL. Some concerns about the Raiders in general, but I'm happy to take him at the turn. I don't know, like, would you rather take him than an AJ Brown or a Stephon Diggs? Because I think that's where you have to, if you're going to get overexposed to Adams, you kind of have to take him there. Would you take him over anybody else that goes ahead of him?
I have sometimes taken him over AJ Brown if they both fall to that more the turn area. It's not regular though. I like all 3 of those guys. I do really want to. I do get a lot of. It's just so easy to get Adams. That's the other reason I don't take it. Like I've gotten him in the mid-second round sometimes, and you compare him with Kelsey Adams or Eckler Adams, stuff like that.
That's true, and it's also, I mean, with AJ Brown. So that's speaking of like liking to stack. That's a ding for me on AJ Brown. That's like I either have to reach to stack him like with Hurts in the second round, or I'm not going to be able to stack AJ Brown. So it's and it's really, as I said, probably not the best consideration. You should be kind of drafting early on in a vacuum, I think, to some extent. But I think that
Yeah.
sometimes keeps me from going too crazy with my Adams or AJ Brown exposure.
I mean, Derek Carr would not have been an awesome stack partner last year, especially missing the playoff weeks. And then he dropped a huge game with Garrett Stidham at, I forget what week that was.
That's
So
right.
you definitely don't have to stack Adams.
Was that against the Niners? I know Waller scored a touchdown. I feel like he had a big game against the Niners. I don't remember if Devonta Adams did also in that game.
It might have been the Niners. I don't remember. That or like the Broncos or something like that.
Okay. JDWH, any thoughts on running back ADP being too low in drafts? I feel like 9 out of 12 players in drafts are doing 0 RB, and that RB value is too low as a result. Better yet, or that being true for anyone but wide receivers, not just running backs. I think that there is truth to that maybe a lot of people are trying to do 0 RB and then running backs get suppressed a little bit. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, that's definitely happening. The problem is if you lean into it and say I'm going to get these awesome running backs early on, is then when you need your wide receivers, you're just picking from guys you do not like, and then there'll be running backs sitting at the top of your queue, and you're like, I wish I could take another running back here, but I really don't need one. It doesn't happen always, but when it does happen, it you just never feel good about. At least me personally, I never feel good about my team after the fact.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. You kind of get forced into following the field to some extent. Like if the field is taking all wide receivers early, like you'd like to be able to pivot, but then it's like, well, then you're left with crappy wide receivers. So it's kind of a tough situation sometimes. So it's going to be an interesting turn here for us. I'll be curious to see who you want to take. We're coming. I was hoping Saquon, I know, has been falling in some drafts. He did not fall in our draft. He probably wasn't going to fall to 36 anyway, but all right, so we are up. Okay, he took Lamar, so he took that off the board. Do you want to go 2 more receivers here? Do you want to look at some running backs? What do you?
So I like the top 5 guys on the board here: Kirk, Allen, Judy, and then if you want to do a running back, I like Najee and Joe Mixon. We could do Keenan Allen and then Jerry Judy, and you set up the Week 17 stack.
That's true. There's at least some possibility that Justin Herbert falls to us at 62. It's pretty unlikely, but
if it doesn't, then you can set up Russ later on.
True. Yeah, I like that. So we're starting with the 4 wide receiver build. I think I do that more often on streams than when I'm drafting by myself. Like I think that like my natural instinct there is like, well, I'll just take Najee, get 1 running back out of the way. But I think that's kind of a mistake to like force that in there sometimes. I think starting 4 wide receivers can set up a unique build. So I'm happy with the start here.
Yeah, I like getting Najee's a guy that can fall to you into like the 5th round sometimes.
True. Yeah, we would have had to reach a little bit for Najee there. So
which I don't get. I mean, we're talking about a 1st round running back that has gotten 300 touches for the first 2 years of his career with a foot injury last year, and they still fed him the ball. Right. I like Jaylen Warren. I think he's a good running back, but Najee is the lead running back in the Steelers offense, and he's going to be until he can't play anymore.
Yep. No, I'm early on. I was not drafting a ton of Najee. Like he's like not exciting because I'm not sure what the talent level is there. But I've gotten more and more like where he's going. He really does feel like kind of a slam dunk. So I've been convinced. Maybe you were one of the people on Twitter who convinced me to some extent. Early on, I was like, that's dead zone. I don't really want to take him there, but I do think that he has upside just based on the volume. I think that a lot of us remember, like last year, it felt for a little while like Jaylen Warren was taking over. Like there were rumors that like Jaylen Warren is taking on some of the load. Like he might be the lead back. Jaylen Warren actually came out and was like, no, Najee is the guy. Like he basically came out and said Najee is the guy, and that was towards the end of the year. Like that was clearly true. Najee was still the guy. So I think maybe some of us have memories that lead us astray sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think he was like top 3 in missed tackles forced per touch still. Warren was up there too, but he had like a third of the carries, which the more carries or touches you get, the harder it is going to be to rank high in that stat. Right. He's definitely not. They've had a bad offensive line. That's getting better. He was injured. The second half of the year for him was much better. I don't understand it's like people think he's like Zeke level dust already, which I don't see how.
He's his 3rd year now too. It's like it's not like he's an old guy. So I've bought in on Najee. I also early on was not drafting like any Joe Mixon. And I feel like if I was going to buy in, I probably should have done so earlier on when he was lower in the draft board. But I thought he was probably looking at a suspension. That's looking less and less likely. And And now I'm, if he falls into the 50s, then I'm willing to take him.
He didn't rise that much though, which
he really didn't. Yeah, he just went at 49. That's like what his ADP was,
right
when he signed his new deal. So
there's definitely a lot of talk around the industry about him. Also, he's definitely lost a step. There's no doubt about it. But I think people might be overreacting a little bit and not factoring in that he's going to be on a top 5 offense and going to be in opportunities to score touchdowns. And I mean, even Zeke put up spike weeks last year just by being in good offenses at times and stuff like that.
So I see Christian Kirk just went. He's interesting to me because this is like right around his ADP, around 50. In every ranking that I have used, including Gajeski's rankings, Christian Kirk he ranks way better than where his ADP is. How do you feel about Christian Kirk this year?
So I think I've drafted Calvin Ridley once or twice out of 100 drafts that I've done or so. I much prefer Kirk. I'm pretty overweight on Kirk. I think the problem is people are viewing him as, Ridley's going to be the alpha guy. He's going to be on the outside. Kirk didn't perform well on the outside against man defenses, which is actually not true. I think he had a yards per route run around 1.89-ish range on the outside, which is solid against man. He's not Jerry Jeudy who has like a 4.2 yards per route run on the outside versus man, but he's definitely still good. And we know he crushes the slot. He should be in the slot now that they have Ridley and Zay Jones to play on the outside. I mean, if we're all projecting where Trevor Lawrence's ADP goes, there's no reason we shouldn't be projecting more than one of these weapons to be, top 24 players at their position.
Yeah, and I think most likely Trevor Lawrence takes another step forward. So I've bought a lot of Calvin Ridley also, but definitely more Christian Kirk because they do like Ridley goes so much earlier, and we actually have Kirk ranked higher than Ridley. So definitely buying in there more. I see Lofty in chat says 5th round Mixon is ridiculous. Doesn't even need to be particularly good as long as he's in Cincy with no one behind him. Yeah, I mean that's kind of that's why I think Lofty maybe has started to convince me to take some Mixon. Ooh, so we get Herbert on the turn. Came all the way back to us. Perfect. So I'd say that is an obvious one. Who else do you want to go? We could go Kittle. We could go with one of these running backs. What do you think?
I don't like Miles Sanders, but I don't hate Tyler Lockett. I don't hate Dameon Pierce actually either. Kittle. I don't take Kittle that often.
I don't take Kittle that often either. All right, so we're going to take Herbert for sure. And then after Herbert, what do you think? We could also take J.K. Dobbins has fallen if we have him ranked a little bit lower on the board.
I'd rather take Dobbins or Pierce over Sanders if we're going to go running back. And then if we want to do receiver, Lockett's the only one, but I don't think we need a receiver. It's probably Kittle or a running back for me.
Yeah, let's go Pierce.
All
right. I early on, like I've bought a good amount of Miles Sanders. Seems like a lot of sharps are off of Miles Sanders completely. I've bought into the hype a little bit, all the good things they're saying about him. So I've bought a lot early on. I think at this point I'm like still overweight to the field. Probably don't need to force it there.
Yeah, he's fine. He's a fine back, and he gets the job done for his team. But he's never been a great pass catcher. I don't think he's going to suddenly become one. He's got a rookie QB. I know so does Dameon Pierce, who we just took. But Pierce at least flashed some, potential elite upside. Like he's a guy that if Stroud is good, like Pierce could be going in round 2 next year if he continues to look good and whatnot. Like he's going after where he was being drafted last year at the end of in like August, September when his ADP shot up last year. And now he's being drafted after that, despite having a pretty good year considering the offense.
Right. All right. So somebody just asked for the draft board. Somebody had asked for this in comments to one of my previous videos. So I'm trying to show the draft board here. I don't look at the draft board probably as much as I should in drafts that I do by myself, I guess, because I mostly use I do a lot of slow drafts, so I just look at what my team needs essentially.
Yeah, I don't use it probably as much as I should either, unless I'm trying to see how many picks do I have left, or can I try to push this stack partner around a turn or something to see where like we took Judy, and if we had to take Russ, where does Cortland Sutton go or something like that? But yeah, I know it is. As someone else that controls the stream when we do the drafts, I have to remind myself to throw the draft board on for the people.
Yeah. All right, so Quentin Johnson just went early. I was kind of hoping maybe he would fall to us at the turn. Like I think he goes around 80 on
Yeah.
average. I was
So
hoping we
we
could get him at 84, 85, but he went. So
we really have to focus on getting like Gerald Everett now, which
yeah,
is it is whatever.
yeah. I like Gerald Everett just fine. I draft him on most of my Justin Herbert teams at the very least.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see
So
what we have.
Tony still goes in the 7th, which is a little
Yeah,
surprising given all the terrible, now he might not be ready till week 1 stuff. And I
yeah.
mean, I'd be shocked if he's not being drafted in the hundreds in the like somewhat near future.
Javonte Williams goes at 74.
Yeah, wow.
That's for us having an RB starved team. That's a little bit of a bummer for me. Wouldn't have minded getting him on the next turn potentially. But a lot of good news for Javonte Williams, so maybe he's going to continue moving up boards. All right, Dallas Goedert goes. It's going to be an interesting turn here. I guess we'll see what falls to us.
Is there another? So we don't really have any other stack, at least at these picks to consider, because we have Wilson, Adams.
Yeah,
we've got Herbert. Where are you? Do you ever? I guess you're not really into you haven't done a lot of Week 17 stacking, but do you ever take 2 QBs in the same Week 17 game, or do you try to?
correlation to take 2 quarterbacks in the same Week 17 game. I get it, but like it's not a huge consideration. It's really it's a non-factor for me. I don't factor it in. Are you opposed to taking 2 quarterbacks with the same Week 17 game?
It depends how highly I drafted whatever the first quarterback is. Like if I need Mahomes, or Burrow goes pretty early, so that's not a great example. But kind of like Herbert. Like if I have took Herbert early, I don't really want to have to count on the guy he's going against in that same week, because then I'm probably dead anyway.
All right, so we are up. Cortland Sutton went early. Man, a lot of people going a little bit early here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind taking Waller here.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Waller?
You could do Waller because it sets up. You can always grab Daniel Jones.
Yeah, exactly.
We'd probably have to we need him to come back around to us, but
I don't know what I mean. We how do you feel about Rashad White or Isaiah Pacheco or James Conner? Do you like any of these running backs or wide receivers here?
I don't love Pacheco, especially with I know he's supposed to
neither.
be fine, but I think we've talked about it. We both like taking CH like super late.
Yep.
White or Connor is not bad to me.
Do you have a preference between those two? Let's see.
Who fits our. Let's go with we could take Connor because we're not going to be super strong at running back anyway, and we can pretty much lock in the points with Connor. Like he's going to be the starter.
Okay, I like that. All right, I'm feeling good about this draft overall so far.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely we are seeing like we talked about earlier. Usually, a lot of times you'll see running backs get pushed down, and you want to take, which hasn't really happened in this draft. But I think we still got a solid 1-2 at running back so far.
Yeah. And we could consider taking Daniel Jones on the next turn potentially. We do have that stack set up with Darren Waller. I don't know how you feel about taking 2 quarterbacks that early, but at the end of round 9 doesn't seem that bad to me.
No, I think that's fine. And then we can be done at quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
Are most of your teams leaning 2 QB or 3 QB?
Really depends on how early I'm taking a quarterback. I would say mostly I lean 2 QB. I think partially just because I am so OCD about stacking. So I try to set up my stack so early, and then I end up taking one of the early quarterbacks and end up taking just 2 quarterbacks a lot of the time, particularly on underdog. In a 20 round, I'll probably take 3 quarterbacks, but in an 18 round, I'm more inclined to take just 2. How about you? What do you usually go with?
Yeah, I probably I'm not usually those early stacks are so hard. Herbert's probably the guy I get the most of the early guys. I wish I had more Trevor Lawrence for some reason. He just never falls to me where I'm looking to stack him. And I've got a good amount of Hurts. I do get a lot of Lamar, which I almost always go to QB with. Yeah, I probably actually have more 3 QB teams just because I haven't been taking the Mahomes, Allen, Hurts in the second round, and then I'm usually pushing them to the third and hoping I get them. Lamar, I get a lot of though in the third or even into the early fourth round on occasion.
Yeah, so part of it for me is I love taking Lamar, so I end up taking him a lot of the time after the big three are off the board. And then once I have Lamar, like, I kind of treat him as like he's the clear QB1. Like, you don't need three once you have Lamar.
No.
I tried to invite Lofty on the show, but he is I don't think he's going to join us. I was hopeful. He comes on at night. I didn't invite him earlier because I thought, well, who wants to join us for an evening show? But no, he's just into to watching it right now. He's not ready to join, unfortunately. I tried to get Lofty on. Sky Moore up to pick 97 now. Like, he's inevitably going to end up in the top 100 picks, right?
I imagine he's going to be the first Chiefs wide receiver off the board, if not the first Chief non-Kelsey Chief off the board. Like, assuming Pacheco falls a little bit, he's already going ahead of McKinnon. There's nobody else, right? Yeah, so I imagine Sky's definitely going to be going much earlier. He's going to be the first Chief off the board.
Yeah, I would think so. Speaking of Lofty, so part of the reason I was inviting him is I see he's asking a question. Do you guys think Quentin Johnson paying off his ADP is entirely dependent on an injury to Williams or Allen? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think so. That offense is so desperate for a guy that can do something after the catch, and that's just not who Keenan Allen is anymore in his career. I like Keenan Allen a lot, but he's an awesome route runner, and he'll get open, and he'll get his for sure. I think Mike Williams is going to be their deep threat, a guy that stretches the field for him. He'll get his deep targets, but we saw it so many times last year. They needed a guy that can basically catch the ball and do something with it after the catch, which is Quentin Johnson's game perfectly. I think that's what fueled the Eckler targets last year. Is he was their best bet after the catch last year in terms of like a guy that can catch it and then do something. Because you can't just Herbert's got the awesome deep arm, but you also just can't be throwing deep over and over and over again.
Right. Yeah. So I think I'm with you on that. But I also think, like, does it matter? Like, what are the chances that both of those guys are healthy all year? Have we seen it in the past?
Right. Yeah.
It feels like every year, at least one of them is going to be missing like just about every game. So
Mike Williams doesn't know how to not fall on his back when he goes to catch a ball.
Yeah. All right. So we might have another interest. So I was going to ask you about Dalvin Cook. He just went, so we no longer have that decision to make. What do you think about? Do you want to take Daniel Jones here?
Unless we want to do, if we don't do Daniel Jones, then we have to be looking for like Aaron Rodgers,
right?
Who I don't really think works with the ADP where we're going to be picking. So I think I'd rather just take Daniel Jones and lock in the stack.
I think I would too. We already have his top pass catcher, I think, in Darren Waller. And then, all right, so let's take a look at the running backs available at the top here. We could take P. Ryan, I guess. We didn't get to Javonte. We could take Jerick McKinnon, or we could go to another. I mean, we don't need to go running back. Do you see anybody at the top here? Any position you want to look at?
Yeah, this is a tough spot. I don't hate taking Jacoby Myers, or no, we already took Adams, and we're not going to stack that, so don't want to do that. Nico Collins is a guy that I like. I don't mind that we already took Pierce. It's kind of just a bet on the offense.
All right, we did it. We took Nico Collins. I don't hate that. I've been taking a ton of Nico Collins recently. Also, a lot of the time, like my inclination there was to go to Freiermuth, just because I'm like, well, he has about the highest ADP. We can close out tight end, but it's just because it's such an ugly part of the board that I'm like, there's nobody that I like better, and he's like the best of his. He's the clear best of his position right here, whereas nobody else is necessarily that. It's not really based on anything other than that. But I think I like Nico Collins there, even if he was, we had to reach a little bit ahead of ADP.
Yeah, Nico and Freiermuth are definitely my favorite picks in this range. I do like Jacoby Myers too, but not so much if I have Adams and I'm not planning on grabbing Garoppolo late or something, or doing a 3 QB build.
Yeah.
Zay Jones is like only in stacks pretty much.
Lofty says he's getting a lot of Deshaun Watson/Rodgers, Cleveland Jets week 17 stack. Okay, so he is doing the double QB in the same game with Watson and Rodgers, which it's not something that I like. I don't go out of my way to get the week 17 quarterbacks on the same team, but also I like, even if it is like slight negative correlation, it's so little that I really don't care. Yeah, I like both those quarterbacks.
Yeah, if they're the QBs you needed in the regular season or even in weeks 15, 16, it's not going to matter if they played in the same game.
And obviously with super flex, like you absolutely want two quarterbacks, or still not like that big of a deal, but it's definitely positive correlation to take quarterbacks
Yep,
from the same game in super flex.
that's true. Have you done a lot of the super flex tournaments?
So I think I've done 30 some drafts now, 30 some of the super draft tournaments on Underdog. I've gotten a top 3 pick one time out of 30 plus drafts. Top 3 pick, like it should happen at 1 out of every 4 drafts. I should get one, and I've only gotten it once.
Yeah, they are not fun when you don't get one of the early picks.
Yeah, I mean, it's like in those 3 in particular, it's like there's a clear tier after
Yeah,
Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts. I love Lamar Jackson too, so like I really don't hate the 104, but yeah, it's you really want one of those top 3, or at least you want
yeah,
to mix them in.
yeah. If you get like the back half of it, if you're 10 through
I
12,
always
like
do. Yeah.
yeah, it's so not fun. I was doing a couple of the Pomeranian ones today, and like I basically was like, let's just get crazy with this and take like 4 late QBs that are not great, but it feels like you just can't compete with those early seeded teams if you're trying to force in quarterbacks early.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's my first, so last night I did several, and in those ones I was generally going 3 quarterback instead of like 4 or 5, in part just because of the way the draft went. I'm sorry, I'm realizing now. So this is the first time I've ever hosted a stream that is going out on multiple YouTube channels, and I'm just realizing for the first time that we have comments on the fantasy football channel as well. Randy Miller says, "Hey fellas, got offered picks 36 and 37 in exchange for my pick 17. I pick at 108, 12 team redraft PPR. My picks would be 8, 32, 36, 37, 41. How do you feel about that trade pick? He got offered picks 36 and 37 in exchange for pick 17 in a PPR redraft league. Ah, man, that's I don't know what I would do.
I think that's doable. I think
It's certainly, I think it's fair value. Like I don't
yeah.
think it's obvious one way or the other.
No, I don't think it's a smash accept or smash decline, but I think I mean, he definitely knows his room better than us, and
Yeah,
how sharp, like if is it underdog ADP style, or is it some of the
right,
is it,
exactly.
so if
Some of
you
the other
think,
sites.
yeah, exactly, if it's more on the lax side, I'd say do it, and yeah, you can get 2 guys that go much earlier on a site like underdog than they would in your normal redraft league.
That's a really good point. So yeah, if it's a softer room, I would be inclined to make that trade and get those picks where and hope for multiple fallers at that turn. But I'm in an unlimited keeper league where it is so ridiculously soft that I would absolutely take that deal, because I'm like, I'm going to get a smash. Oh man,
Right.
Jacoby Myers almost made his way all the way back to us, which at this turn I would have taken him there.
Yeah,
Um,
the board isn't even that different, I feel like, than what we just picked from.
yeah, Rondell. How do you feel about Rondell Moore?
I mean, I kind of like him at this point. We definitely do need a running back, though. That's the
We do.
problem. It's about to start getting really, really gross. I think we got to go running back here. What do you?
Do you like Bigsby? Like just looking at the top ADP guys,
I
we got.
do. Yeah, I do kind of like Bigsby.
All right, we could go Bigsby to start. So I can't take Mostert here. We have him
No.
ranked really, really high. If we get him closer to ADP, I'd be okay with that, I guess.
Yeah, there's not. Yeah, the problem is it's just getting. What about tight end?
We already have no, we don't have Bijan, so we could go
Yeah, we could go Algier. I don't hate
Algier.
that.
Do you want Schultz?
You could do Higby. That's a week 17 with the Giants.
All right, we're doing it. We're doing Higbee. Do you think this is a good enough tight end room to close out our tight ends?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Waller should be hitting our lineup pretty much every week. Higby is pretty much a lock to run 80+% of the routes, if not 90+% of the routes this for the Rams. So
I guess I would
he's
say now that we made the pick, I'm realizing I'm like, oh, maybe we should have held out for potentially getting Gerald Everett. I guess
oh, that's right.
he
Yeah.
has the ADP of 148. Man, he's been rising. He
So we
was
probably
mid
we would
50s.
have had to take him. Well, we'll see if he comes around, but there was
Yeah,
a good
I'm
chance
gonna
we would have had
star
him.
him anyway, because if he does come back around, maybe we can talk about doing a 3 tight end build here,
I think that's fine because we're only doing two QBs.
just for the double correlation too. I guess. So we also we have Daniel Jones. We can talk about these Giants receivers if you have any. I have. It's such a tough thing to read what's going on there. I know they add Cole Beasley for some reason. Just I don't know what they're doing on New
So
York.
I actually got a fun data point on this one from
All
the
right.
tool that I was poking around. So I was drafting a lot of Slayton as I thought he was the best wide receiver on the team. I just thought maybe the team didn't like him, but he's going to be like, but they like really didn't like him. So when the Giants
Interesting.
ran 11 personnel, when they have 3 wide receivers on the field, the percentage of snaps was basically Hodgins, Slayton, Richie James in that order. Wandale was up there too when he was healthy. When they go to 12 personnel, when they only have 2 wide receivers on the field, and which I expect them to run a lot this year because they added Waller and they've got year 2 Daniel Bellinger, who they still like a lot.
Yep.
Slayton's snap share basically falls to 43%, which is behind Kenny Galladay, behind David Sills, behind Marcus Johnson. Like, these are guys that are not on NFL teams right now. Like,
Right.
they really don't like him on the field when they've only got 2 guys on the field. So and Hodgins is at the top of both lists. So I have been trying to get more Hodgins. I do
Okay.
like Paris Campbell. I like Hyatt where he's been falling to lately. He was going a little bit too early, I feel like, early in the draft season, but
He's fallen a lot.
yeah. So now I kind of like him as more of an upside play. But yeah, I lean more Hodgins and Campbell at this point for the Giants wide receiver room.
Okay, that's good to hear because that's I think those have been my top 2 in general also, and then Jalen Hyatt probably third
Yep.
for me. And I have drafted a ton of Waller. Have you been in on Waller generally?
Yeah, I don't know if he's a guy that I've like reached to make sure I get frequently, but I'm definitely not passing him over if he's sitting there at ADP because Daniel Jones hasn't gone off the board yet. So like if I know I
Right.
need like I'm like I don't know how the rest of my sacks are going to work out. He's so easy to click every time, and then a Ram is always so easy to get late if you want to run it back.
Yeah. Chris, am I remembering right that you're not much of a bye week bro?
Uh, I'd look at it, but like as a tiebreaker. But other than that, no, I don't really care.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's largely true for me too. Like it's mostly a tiebreaker. But I definitely consider like it's something that I factor in pretty like I shouldn't say I don't factor in heavily, but so what I was gonna say is I won't take Waller at ADP if I've already taken Mark Andrews, for example. Like if I've already got a
Yeah,
week 13 tight end, it's like, okay, well, that's too much draft capital with the same bye week in particular, which it probably shouldn't matter as much as it does for me. But like with those kind of considerations, I will take him if he is my first tight end. I won't take him if I've already taken a week 13 tight end. I'm trying to think of if there are other quarterbacks that I take early. Like if I have Josh Allen, I'm less inclined to take him because I'm like, well, I'm going to take either Dalton Kincaid or Dawson Knox later on. So I'm not going to take Darren Waller at ADP there. So there are like different like little tiebreakers where maybe I won't take him at ADP. Whereas if I don't have a tight end and I don't have a stack that I'm trying to set up with a week 13 quarterback, then I will.
yeah,
Um,
I definitely do factor it in more for the onesie positions, quarterback and tight end. Like I don't
okay.
think you
Yeah.
can. Like I know, like Scott Barrett that I do the stream. He loves to do the take Mahomes and Kelsey and be done at quarterback and tight end. I just don't think that can get you. It might be somewhat optimal in the regular season, but I think you're just so dead in the playoff weeks when they're because if they're the guys you need, they're going to be so popular by the time you get to the finals that they're basically irrelevant players for you at that point.
Right. All right. So we are back up at the 156, 157 turn now.
So we don't want to take a giant wide receiver yet.
Feels a little too early to take a giant wide receiver. I'm going to uncheck them. Do you want to take another running? We could take Deontay Foreman. I don't
I
hate
don't
him.
take Foreman a lot, but I'm not opposed to it here because I do kind of like getting exposure to the Bears backfield. Jerome Ford, I don't mind here.
Should we take both of them? How would you feel about
Yeah, we can do that.
I guess I'll open it up to see who else is if there are any screaming values here. Doesn't look like there's any screaming values here, so yeah, I think I'd be okay
Yeah, I
going
think it,
double running back.
yeah, I
I
think
think
we should.
that I mean our first running back was Damian Pierce at pick 61, so
Yeah,
like we
yeah. How
are
many running backs should we try to finish this with? I guess.
I would say so. I never really take more than 6, so I would say either probably take one more. I would probably take one more here.
That's fair.
How would you often take more than 6 or 7?
I do sometimes take 7. I don't think I've ever gotten to 8. I'd have to like really get late for that. We did take Pierce and Connor though, who were they're not late picks, but they're not
fairly for our first running backs. Like they're fairly late. Yeah.
they're
Like this would be a build where I could see doing 7 running backs in particular because there's more and more late running backs who are sort of interested in me. So like Leonard Fournette, maybe going to the Pats makes him more interesting to me. We still have like if Mostert falls to us on our next turn, then I'll be interested in Mostert. If he doesn't, Jeff Wilson, I really like Jeff Wilson, where he goes. Some interest in Gainwell. Singletary, if he falls back to us, I've not drafted much Singletary at all, but I guess we have Damian Pierce too, so we probably don't
not
want
on
that.
this team, but yeah, I do take Singletary occasionally. Chuba Hubbard, I take a decent amount, mostly as like since I already take or I don't like taking Sanders. I feel like I have to place a bet on somebody that there's a reason that Sanders is a bad pick, so I do take Chuba Hubbard a decent amount.
Zamir White is who I was trying to remember.
Yes,
Zamir White now with Josh Jacobs, potentially holding out becomes a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I don't know how Zamir White doesn't get drafted every draft.
I thought for sure he was gonna.
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna scream up draft boards particularly after the Josh Jacobs, potential holdout whispers started. But he still goes like you can get him in the last round.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like we took Tank Bigsby. How is he any different from Tank Bigsby? Really?
Right. Exactly.
Like Jacobs was not a big pass catcher last year, which is pretty much the same story for ETN. That's what people think Bigsby do. I don't think Zamir White's an excellent pass catcher or by any means, but they're both guys that would just fall into a lot of volume if their starters didn't play a week.
Right. Yeah. No, he seems like the same bet as a lot of backup running backs and really strong late round running back. All right. So Mostert went. How do you feel about the Miami backfield in general? Do you have any strong takes there?
I pretty much just take the latest one.
Same. Jeff Wilson.
Yeah.
Usually Jeff Wilson.
I was big last year on not taking Mostert, thinking he was done. I took a lot of was it Chase Edmonds? I think it was Chase Edmonds.
Chase Edmonds, yeah.
But then he got traded to Denver. Yeah, that's right. So it was Chase Edmonds, which was totally wrong. Mostert was definitely the guy, but then Mostert also got hurt at times. Yeah. So I don't want zero Mostert. Mostert, I think, is a guy that is good. You just also know he's not going to play like 50% of the games at least. So
he's also to me, Mostert and Jeff Wilson are similar. Like either one of them could be the bell cow if they're healthy, but I don't think it's all that likely. So it sounds like you and I have the same approach of just like, yeah, it's a murky situation. I'm going to go with the last available. Mostert also like 31 now, I want to say, and Jeff Wilson's 27. So like they're getting to the point in their ages where it's like, yeah, maybe tilts a little bit toward Jeff Wilson at their ages. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm just really not taking A-Chain much. He has to like really fall past ADP for me to do it.
Same. That's a tough click for me.
Yeah.
Has to be in the right draft for me to consider A-Chain. And typically like almost, I don't know if I've ever taken him at his ADP is like 110 or something ridiculous.
Yeah. It doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
Especially with the potential of like Dalvin Cook signing there or something. Like I don't know how he hasn't fallen at all. So I saw Hodgins went off the board.
Okay, so we could take Campbell if he falls to us. I mean, we'd have to take Campbell here if we want him probably, or we could wait and hope for take whoever's available of Hyatt, Wandale, Slayton. We only have 5 wide receivers, so it might make sense to take another receiver here.
Yeah, I think
go with Campbell.
Yeah, let's do Campbell, and then I don't hate taking Hyatt or another guy later if it makes sense
fall.
to.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna go Campbell, and then what do you think about a running back here? We could go Hubbard. It sounds like you like Hubbard. We could go Lenny.
Yeah, let's take Hubbard because we also took Pierce right where we would have taken Sanders. So theoretically for Pierce to beat Sanders in that ADP pocket, there has to be something has to happen. So it's kind of like a bet on our previous bet of taking Pierce.
Good call. I like that. All right. Probably good at running back unless we see a great value in our final turn.
Yeah. Where did Everett end up going off the board?
He went off a little bit before our last turn. I don't remember exactly. Let's see. Yeah, he went at 153. So we actually did fall close to us there.
Yeah.
Do you have any interest in taking like a Josh Palmer or what's the speedy Jalen Guyton?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think. Is there a Charger that makes sense? I'm not really taking Palmer. I mean, Palmer is a guy that you definitely need an injury for him to do something. But we saw
Right.
last year, like he got tons of playing time, and it never really amounted to anything.
No, I drafted so much of him last year,
I
and
did
that
draft
was
a
a
good amount too.
mistake.
Yeah.
Guyton feels like he's a little bit different. Like, isn't he kind of a burner?
Yeah, he definitely is. He would probably be the guy. You probably still like even if Mike Williams went down, they'd probably try to make Quentin Johnson that burner guy first. But if they wanted to have three wide receivers on the field and they didn't want to they wanted a burner that wasn't Quentin Johnson, it would probably be Guyton because it's not Palmer.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it stinks we only got one Charger.
Yeah,
You
I do
can do
like
a
double
running back.
stacking.
Yeah, you could do a running back, but I mean, is it Kelly? Is it Isaiah Spiller? Hard to really know
Yeah,
at this point.
it is. I've been drafting Josh Kelly, but I don't know that I have any great reason there.
Yeah, I take him more. I've taken Spiller a couple times just as like a maybe this is a bet, but it's mostly a backfield. That if I'm not getting Eckler, I'm waiting till we have more training camp news. I think there is value in that RB2 guy, but I just don't have a good lean on who it is right now.
Rough Buff Fire says Palmer had 800 yards as a backup. How does that suck? He wasn't a backup. He was full time last year.
Yeah, he was the third. Even without the injuries to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, he was the third receiver on the field. But they did use DeAndre Carter over him a good
Oh,
amount
that's
as
right. Yeah.
well.
So I guess he kind of, but he came in as a starter and kind of lost his roles. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
So
He's just
and then
he's not gonna like give you a ton of spike weeks. It doesn't feel like.
yeah. Lafayette, where are you guys at on Gus Edwards? Legitimate efficiency throughout his career, strong O-line already involved in the offense, even without a Dobbins injury. I've drafted a lot of Gus Edwards late in drafts. Like he feels like one of the safer bets. He's actually similar to me to like a Chuba Hubbard or Jeff Wilson. Like I could see weeks like where he is the starter and is the clear guy because of that efficiency. There have been rumors though of like the Ravens potentially signing one of the free agents, maybe.
Melvin Gordon they signed.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They did sign Melvin Gordon, which
Yeah, so
I don't know.
I was like you I do take a lot of Edwards, and then I stopped when the Melvin Gordon thing happened. But now that the past few days I've been thinking about it more, and I think that's more J.K. Dobbins insurance. It's been a lot quieter, but Dobbins has definitely been in the camp of he wants a new contract because he knows what it's like to go through a major injury. He doesn't want to. His contract is not up this year. He's not like Saquon or Josh Jacobs, but he's been
Right.
he has at times been vocal about wanting a new one. So I think Gordon is more Dobbins insurance than it is Gus Edwards, like losing his role at all. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm back on board with taking Gus Edwards a lot late.
Okay. Yeah. He's again, it kind of depends on like what the rest of my running backs look like. And part of that for me is just like bye weeks. Like if I have another week 13 bye week, then I'm like, yeah. But if I don't already have a week 13 bye week running back, I'll often take Gus Edwards. And really that's particularly in the running back position. Like I don't mind having two running backs with the same bye week if I have at least five. Like I want to have at least three every week in general is kind of my feeling. But maybe I probably weigh bye weeks too much. So that's something that I know that I do more than other people in general, and probably a little bit too much. All right, so we're coming. So we currently have 2-6-6-2. Typically here, I would be inclined to take two wide receivers, but if there are running backs or other positions you like, who do you like here?
Yeah, unfortunately Hyatt didn't make it to us. Yeah, let's take Wandale. Or we could do
We could
Slayton. I
take
know I
Woods.
said
We
it.
don't have to stack with the quarterbacks either. If you like Woods, Corey Davis, Miko
Woods is a
Hardman.
little bit too. We have too much Texans, I think. Then without
Okay.
Stroud,
Yeah.
I would do Wandale or Slayton here.
All right, let's go Wandale since I've got him queued up. All right, so Wandale, we have one more pick here. Doesn't have to be a receiver. We could take one of these Chargers guys. We could take Joshua Kelly. We could take CJ Spiller.
So here's
Isaiah Spiller.
Here's my late round running back. I've been trying to take a lot more. Latavius Murray for the Bills.
Latavius Murray.
Yeah.
Now we lost Nyheim Hines for the year.
Yeah. So they signed Damian Harris, got all the love when he signed with the Bills this year, but I don't think we should be sleeping on Murray. So I was doing some digging on running backs last year.
Oh shit! I took Robert Woods. I don't know how that happened.
Oh, do you have positional limits on?
Oh.
so that
I
you
didn't
don't
know
take
that
more.
the. Yeah, I do. I didn't know that that applied when I was doing a live draft.
Yeah.
I thought positional limits were only if you're auto drafting. Oh,
Well, you know, I
okay.
Woods is definitely the best pick there by like medium projection and everything.
Right.
So at least there's that.
Well, that's a bummer that we. I mean, this is a more common build for me, the 2682.
Yeah.
Man, I did not realize that that applied when I was drafting live. Well, if that costs us $1 million, then I'm sorry, Chris.
The
I didn't
Latavius
know.
Murray overall.
Yeah, yeah. If Latavius Murray is who you need in week 17, and this lineup makes
Oh,
it to
that's
week
gonna hurt.
17.
That's gonna
That is
hurt.
gonna hurt. Yeah. But at least we got you to share what you like in the final round for running back.
Yeah, so yeah, he's been so I did some filtering using the tool. You can basically take out, I want to see runs that are at least 3 yards to go and have no more than 6 defenders in the box. This is like ideal running in conditions for most running backs. Murray's 8th in that list of running backs, and Damian Harris is Murray's at like 5.9 yards per carry. Damian Harris is at like 3.9. It's a pretty big gap. Murray got a lot of work in short yardage stuff, so like he's just trying to get the first down or the touchdown, whatever it is. But when he's like just being a running back, he was pretty good last year.
Yeah, I mean they clearly bought into him in Denver. Like he was like they liked him. They were playing him over Melvin Gordon.
Yeah,
So
we played him in DFS more than once
right.
at the end of the season last year.
I mean, this non-click here would have been my first Latavius Murray. I'm bummed that we didn't get him here. Would have been, I think, probably my first Latavius Murray share. I have been buying in on Damian Harris, but you make a good point. Like we assume so much of like these quarterbacks or these NFL franchises are going to play who we think is better, and like sounds like you're not even convinced necessarily that Damian Harris is better.
So I was drafting a lot of Harris, and I'm probably not like totally off Harris, but I'm definitely, if I need another running back late, Murray is becoming one of my favorite. As you mix in Zamir Whites and your CEH, like I'd probably prefer CEH over Murray still, but
Okay.
I'd probably like Murray over White unless it makes sense for my team for the most part.
Interesting. Okay, you like Murray over Zamir White? You say?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna have to start mixing them. You're not the first person that I've heard make that point. Although I think I've heard it more in terms of like this is why you shouldn't be buying Damian Harris as opposed to this is why you should be taking Latavius Murray. But
Yep.
I mean, it definitely makes some sense. And losing Nyheim Hines for the year definitely is a little boost to all of those running backs. So I like it. I like that call. Even if I was prohibited from actually taking him. That's really funny. I also, I guess, usually if I'm live drafting, I'm making the picks myself. Like I'm not waiting for the clock to run out. So I think that if I had gone in and clicked draft, it would have let me do it. It's just because I let
That's
it
a
run
good question.
down.
I wonder if it does. I don't know. Yeah.
I also have like never take 7 running backs, so it's probably actually never come up as an issue.
Well, I'm glad to be part of the first draft that you make a pick that you didn't mean to.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I wish that we had made a pick. I wish we had made the Latavius Murray pick. You would have been my first time drafting Latavius Murray, but I'll get him at some point this summer. Now that we've had this conversation, you've sold me on him a little bit. I'll take some late round Latavius Murray there. How do you feel about this draft? How would you grade this one?
I'd say it's pretty good. I'd probably, I'd give it a B plus, A minus. I think ideally maybe some of the running backs would have fallen like Kenneth Walker, Najee Harris when we took a bunch of wide receivers early, but didn't happen.
Right.
But I think getting Dameon Pierce and then getting the pretty much guaranteed volume in James Conner is going to keep our running back afloat. And then we just need Tank Bigsby to be the, take over Jacksonville somehow, whether it's by injury or whatever. Right. Hubbard is a bit more involved. Jerome Ford is more involved. Foreman, same thing. Like just a lot of guys that are going to be third down guys, and maybe they get a little bit more of the early down work than we currently can project. And I think we'll be fine at running back. And then we just rely on our receivers and Darren Waller at tight end to give us the high upside.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you. I think this is a good solid B plus draft. Like would have liked it better if we had, maybe skipped over Tyler Higbee and Gerald Everett came back to us. Like you kind of need a little bit of luck to get like a true A draft. And I don't know that we had particularly great luck in terms of like after we take start with a couple wide receivers, then like if this was a draft where the whole room was letting running backs fall, that we could have lucked into some great values. We didn't like get anybody to really fall to us where we had a lot of great luck, but still I think that we drafted a solid team. We've got our quarterback stacked. That's another thing. Like, we didn't get our double stack with Justin Herbert, so like we didn't even look into Quentin Johnson falling to the 84, 85 turn. Like, so we didn't have a lot of things really go our way, but ultimately, I think as you were saying, like, every position, I'm happy with Herbert and Daniel Jones as my quarterback room. I'm happy with this. Like, this clearly running back, not our strongest position, but we've got the early season guys in Dameon Pierce, James Conner, and then we have 4 other guys who I think all have the potential to be lead backs in the right situation at the very least. And then obviously very, very strong at wide receiver, and our tight ends are, clearly have upside with Darren Waller. So I think I'm happy with this draft.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Chris. Well, we've made it to the end of the hour. I don't know that we had any other questions remaining. Russian collusion wanted to know thoughts on Team 4. So let's take a look at Team 4 before we head out of here. So I assume that he's talking about M. Hall. I don't see any other teams that he'd be talking about. So the 4th pick. So we got CMC. So he's got Hurts with Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. So he's got that double stack right away. Clearly McCaffrey, Kenneth Walker, Cam Akers, Alvin Kamara.
So the only thing I probably would have changed was not taking one of those early first 4 running backs. Like, if you're going to take McCaffrey, then I think taking Kenneth Walker or Cam Akers or Kamara is fine, but taking all 4 together, like, I'd rather have probably another higher end wide receiver there.
Yeah, I think I'm with. So his wide receiver starts with Devontae Smith and Mike Williams as his wide receiver 2 is fine. But then, like, when you wait all the way to Lazard and Dobbs as your wide receivers 3 and 4, it's a little bit of a thin wide receiver room. A lot of players that I take.
Yeah, I do like that the shots he did take at wide receiver were pretty high upside rookies. Like,
right.
Almost all Reed, Mims, and Mingo are all rookies.
Yep.
So I think he tried to cover it pretty well. But that's probably the only thing I would have changed.
Yeah, and he's got I think I'm with you on that. I like that he's got the stacks going. He got Rodgers with Lazard. Did he get any other Jets in there? So it doesn't look like he got any other Jets to add to the stack. Overall, I'd say looks like a decent team. Like, looks like the kind of team that I would build. But I think that I agree with you, Chris, that maybe a little bit overboard on early running backs at the expense of wide receiver after you got McCaffrey so early. Let me just see if he has. Yeah, so he didn't have any other thoughts that he added. So I think we're looking at the right team, but can't be 100% sure. But again, guys, if you have not yet signed up for Underdog, use promo code Stochastic12 or use the link in the description of this video to get your first deposit matched up to $100 and also access to the Stochastic Fantasy Football and Best Ball package, all of our rankings available there. That's going to be, it doesn't happen immediately when you sign up. It'll be emailed to you later on because we need Underdog to tell us who signs up with the promo code. So it'll be a later email. But yeah, check it out if you haven't already. Again, it's the link in the description of this video. Chris, thank you very much for coming on. Where can people find you?
At Chris Wecht FF on Twitter. Everything else, I don't do a ton of content for Fantasy Points. I'm mostly doing a lot of the stuff in the background, but I do the Wednesday streams. We do our own best ball streams. Me, Scott Barrett, Graham Barfield, Thomas Tipple, a different combination of people, and we have guests on and whatnot, just like this. So you can find me there too.
I didn't know that Graham was on there too. I knew when I was on there, it was you and Scott and Thomas. He had truck troubles, or I forget what it was.
Yeah,
he had to leave in the middle of the draft.
Graham's been working in a little bit with him, and Scott have been alternating a bit.
Nice. So I'll have to check that out. Do you have a guest lined up for this Wednesday?
Yes, we're having. We mentioned him earlier, actually, Justin Freeman from Run the Sims.
Oh, nice. Yep.
So we don't get to see Justin's best ball takes all that often. I feel like he tweets some stuff that is a little bit best ball related, but other than that, I don't think he talks about his how he views best ball in the whole landscape this year. So excited to see what he says.
Yeah, that's true. I can't recall too many best ball takes from Justin, so I'll have to check out your stream on Wednesday. But yeah, check out Chris at Chris Wecht FF on X. Is it called X now? I don't know what the hell they call it these days.
I was like, what are you talking about?
He'll be zeding at you on X, wherever you use your social. I still call it Twitter. You can find him on Twitter at Chris Wecht FF. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll catch you later.